You can see her in the tavern. She been running through my brain. Is this infatuation? Whoa, ever gonna say?
When she get up on the dance floor, make her way into the stage. When I lose my concentration, oh, she look up in my face. What I said, my finger steady, so my baby don't want to. Said my finger steady, my baby never. Said my pull up the baby, so my baby don't go. I pick up my guitar and I roll out this song about my pull up the baby, so my baby don't.
For everybody, it was a very dark, and just, we didn't know what was going to happen. I had an idea for an album, but I think it was actually quarantine that made me develop the vision for the actual album. It limited your creativity as far as the normal avenue you would go to create something. Like, it kind of took you out of your comfort zone.
It might have been more difficult 10 to 15 years ago to do this, to make an album while everything was shut down in lockdown mode.
We weren't able to get different musicians into the studio.
Our comfort level probably wasn't like it normally is.
You had to be creative in different ways. What do I hear in my head, and how do I create it to the best of my ability, even though we're limited? The idea of the album developed in the early days of quarantine. In New Jersey, we were at the height of getting thousands of new cases a day and afraid to leave the house. Everyone's just going through so much. You needed an escape. I had an idea for an album, but I think it was actually quarantine that made me develop the vision for the actual album. Quarantine kind of shaped it. You might have like a certain group that you like to work with, a certain person that plays drums per se. You might really like their style. Well, you know, you can't get that person because they can't make that trip because of quarantine. I can't use that same type of sound that I hear in my head. So now I need to go and be creative in another way. We had a lot more time where we can really focus on how we wanted to arrange the songs, how we wanted them to sound, but at the same time we were limited to how we could do it with multiple musicians. It was a lot of just myself and the engineer Bill Mann, just kind of trying to figure out how we can make things work, how we could take songs that were started before quarantine and how we could finish them just the two of us. That was a big challenge, and how we could start from scratch on other ones in order to create a full-length album.
A lot of what Mylan does is kind of retro-ish, especially with this album. Rather than us go through and like record a zillion tracks and try to comp them all together to make perfect takes and perfect everything, and we kind of went with more of a raw kind of feel.
When we first saw each other and we first were like, we're gonna make an album, it was very awkward because we were like, should we wear masks? Should we be 6 feet apart? It's a very small studio. How are we gonna make this work?
Our comfort level probably wasn't like it normally is.
Masks were worn here and there, but you know, it's challenging. We definitely took some risks. I quarantined myself many a times from family during this.
We really kind of did sort of our normal, as much as we could. It's still COVID days. We have to work around or do what we have to responsibly keep going.
You know, you still have to be precautious and make sure you're doing all the right things. So we made it work. The main story that I think is the most interesting is working with Vince and trying to get live drums to work well with the song. The majority of the album, it was pretty much Bill and myself, but we were able to get some people to add different instruments to it.
Rather than bring someone in here during the height of the pandemic earlier in the year, Mylan reached out to his friend Vince and asked him to listen to the track and play some percussion to it.
He did percussion on the title track, The Neverending Summer.
Making the song with Mylan wasn't hard at all. I've known Mylan for a lot of years now. I've opened for him a couple of times. I've played together a couple of times. He's opened for my band a couple of times. So I know his music pretty well.
Made a rough mix of the song, sent it off to Vince, and let him play through the song a bit.
He listened to it. He got an idea of what kind of percussion he wanted to use for it.
When I first heard the track, I definitely said, man, I definitely want congas in there, and I want djembe, but the cajon and bongos are the only things I had access to. It forced me to be more creative.
Oh my gosh, it was so cool. Basically, I just sent him the track. He heard it, he got a vision.
Send it back to us so that we can add it to the mix.
I've never been on the delivering end of stems in a recording. I've always taken in stems from people and then manipulated it that way.
So we got his files, we plopped it right into the timeline.
And it worked out well.
It was perfect.
Mylan's a really easy guy to jam with. His sense of timing is stellar. He's got a really good groove and good feel for his music.
It was the first time that I ever experienced doing something like that virtually.
I prefer jamming with Mylan live, of course, but with the recording he sent, it was really no different. It captured his sense of timing and style, so it was really easy to put my part in.
It was something really fun, and it was like he was actually in the studio with us.
And that's one way we kind of dealt with not bringing musicians in.
Neverending summer.
Neverending Summer was a song I wrote during quarantine, right when it was the height of everything was at its. It was really bad in New Jersey. There were thousands of cases a day, and we didn't really know what was going to happen. We didn't know when we'd be comfortable seeing loved ones again or friends, and I wanted to write something really uplifting, really fun, happy, having a party, having people come over and just having drinks, dancing, having a great time. And it was for everybody. It's a song about love. It's a song about being who you are, not being afraid to be yourself. It's a song about being with your friends, being with your family, and just really, really having a great time. So it was almost kind of like a therapy for me to write something about just kind of like seeing all my friends, seeing all my family again. We're living in a time that we're very fortunate to have all these new technologies that we can use in order to create albums and other types of live performances. This were like 10, 15 years ago. I don't know what we would be able to do. Definitely the collaborations would be limited.
I think it might have been more difficult 10 to 15 years ago to do this, to make an album while everything was shut down in lockdown mode. It still would have been doable, but not as easily. Being
able to talk to somebody, like maybe you can explore this avenue of the song, and we can go back and forth through Google Meet. It's definitely a lot easier to talk to people from long distance.
What's more possible and more doable, would have been hard maybe 10 or 15 years ago, is for more people to track something at home on their own and upload it or send it to a studio, and they bring it into a session and match it, make that part of the multi-track session. Technology's improving, and just the work in general is just getting less challenging to make it work. So you're open to more collaborations with people. You're open to working with people from other parts of the country, other parts of the world. So technology's definitely improved all of that. We definitely have better technology now. There's challenges in every album or every project, and you just got to find a way to work through them or work around them if necessary. And that's what a lot of 2020 is it's finding a way to work through it or around it.
So performing now versus how it was before the virus, it's definitely different. What's great about it is that we're finding out all these new ways that we can perform. Facebook Live or Google Meets, different ways of using YouTube, all your different types of social media. You're able to reach, thousands, hundreds of thousands of people. So that's something different.
Facebook Live got real big in the beginning when everything shut down, which was neat, but it got flooded. Everybody wanted to do Facebook Live all at once.
I haven't booked anything virtual or live or anything like that since quarantine started. I did do a few virtual performances here and there, some with my students, where I would film myself playing guitar or whatever, and then send the video file to them for them to use to film their part, and then they send me their part and I piece it together. So I did that a few times with my students, and I did it with my singer Dana from my band Remember Yesterday for a song. So I've done those, but no actual Facebook Live performances and no outdoor shows or anything like that, the wineries or anything.
When you're just in front of a camera, it's not the same. And you kind of have to dig a little bit to find that energy or that focus.
As performing live, that looks a lot different now. When I do live shows, I'll be performing in front of a crowd of 100, 200 people, but they're not all together. They're just spread out. So it's the same crowd, but when you're looking out, it's like, here's a group of 4, here's a group of 4, here's a group of 2. Not the same as it was a couple months back.
I definitely miss playing out. It's a weird feeling not having anything on your calendar coming up for gigs.
When you're live, especially when you have a crowd, there's an energy, there's a feel. You can feed off the room, play off the room. It's kind of like an all-encompassing thing.
I mean, it also depends on the venue that you play at. Right now, at the filming of this documentary, it's summer. You're able to be outside. You're able to listen to music and be spread out.
But I realized I don't miss packing my stuff, loading my amps, carrying my amps, winding up cables, setting up the stage, the load in, the load out. I'm getting kind of old, man. Carrying heavy stuff is not really sitting well with me these days.
When it gets colder, I don't know how it's going to happen because we can't be in small enclosed areas. So I don't know what's going to happen with that.
I definitely miss jamming with my band. My band are all my friends, so I miss hanging out with them and making music together.
And we'll just have to wait and see. But as for right now, it's different, but you're still getting your music out there. You're still able to perform. It just looks a lot different.
And I'm sure everybody misses going out and playing live, just like everybody misses going out and hearing live music. And I hope everyone develops an appreciation for live music after all this.
Beautification of a hidden relation, a much needed vacation come true. So tell your frustrations to get numb with libations and begin the relaxation a whole day through. Well, I can't forget you, unforgettable times. Rum, coconut, lime, laid back rhythm and rhyme. Well, how could I let you slip so far away? If I could have one more wish, well, I just want you to stay for a never-ending summer, a never-ending summer, a a never-ending summer come true.